Welcome to Popternative, where we dive into topical discussions from the worlds of pop culture, social media, and sports. Here is your host, Peter Remoliotis, aka PD Beats.
PD Beats here from Popternative, speaking to Alice Seabright about Chloe premiering on Prime Video June 24th. Welcome to the show. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
I mean, there's a lot happening in this show. You're wearing a lot of hats with this project. It's a lot, right? Just from kind of working on it and just kind of the storylines and a lot of the twists and turns. What's the mindset when you start working on it officially?
Oh yeah, it's a lot. It's like, okay, we're doing this now. And we got the go ahead just before January 2020. So just before the pandemic hit. We did a writer's room, which was amazing. And then lockdown happened. And suddenly I'm stuck in my flat, having to write everything. And, on one level, terrifying. On another level, there was nothing else to do. So, but yeah, it's a tricky storyline to crack. And it was also, filming in the pandemic, it was a lot. I'm still recovering.
In terms of the story and the characters, there's a lot at play. There's obviously the social media component. There's a psychological thriller component. Do they all work together in your opinion, or were there kind of some elements that you really wanted to kind of hone in on when you were putting this together?
Great question. I think the social media element, because obviously, on some level that's at the forefront when in the first episode, it's the first thing you see, and there's an element of the story there, but actually I would say that came later.
Yeah.
The thing I was most interested in was the character of Becky, her particular psychological profile, and then the sort of obsession that she has around Chloe. The idea of, the character of Chloe is it's the title of the show. She's a huge part of the story, and yet she dies, in minute 4 or whatever. And so it was about that, getting into what it means to obsess over someone, the kind of intensity of teenage friendships, the themes of appearance and truth and reality and how people present and what's really going on, the stories that we tell ourselves, all these different things. And then the truth is that in a story that's set in the contemporary world, in which you're exploring those themes, social media is going to come into it, so it was obviously Becky, if she has if she has this attitude towards Chloe and she's this kind of person, obviously she's going to be on Instagram at 2 a.m, scrolling through. That makes sense.
I definitely feel like that. When I'm watching it, the psychological thriller kind of component is the one I'm really kind of focused on, because I feel like it's so fleshed out and there's so much happening. The social media is a part of it, but in some ways it's just kind of there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a part of their life. It's a way to look at the other stuff rather than it's not like I was particularly interested in doing a show about. It's not really the key. It's just an element of the way that these people relate, because we all do relate like that now.
There are twists, there are turns. Some of these are obviously, talked about when you're putting this together and everything. Do you find some of in terms of twists and turns in this and with the characters, did you have kind of premeditated ideas of what you want to do? Did it kind of just happen naturally? I'm just curious about that specifically.
Yeah, I knew pretty early on what we were going to
spoiler free, exactly. Of course,
yeah,
right?
Spoiler free. I knew where I was headed, right? I knew the landing pad, shall we say, but I didn't. There was a lot that you work out, I think even, in the really early days, the kind of first treatment that I wrote, there was a sense of, elements of the ending that were or what gets revealed and all that were known. And then there was, so many parts that were unknown, and there were so many parts that changed in the writing process, because the more you flesh it out, the more you figure out, and, that you get into the details of things, and things start to make more sense as you're in the writing, and but I had an idea. There was a direction and a landing pad.
100%. Part of the world has already seen this. It did premiere on BBC, correct?
Yeah, it did. It was on BBC in February.
Okay, so now more of the world is going to get to see it on Prime Video on the 24th. What's the mindset with that specifically?
Terrified. Absolutely shitting myself. No, I don't know. It's great. It's so exciting. But yeah, there's also an element of just being like, oh God, you know, what are people going to think? And
it's a surreal feeling of like something you worked on with a lot of amazing people finally kind of gets disseminated in there, and then it's essentially like out of your hands, basically.
Oh yeah, it's trippy. It's trippy because it's like, okay, well, you know, there's nothing I can do now, right? It's like people. So yeah, on some level, you have to just be like, let go and go. Okay, well, it's not mine anymore. Just see what people think. I mean, the really lovely thing, you know, in February when it came out in the UK was just hearing people, you know, having some conversations and also hearing what people thought, like in reaction to the show, like more than, you know, like, do they like it, do they not? It's like actually hearing people's interpretations, or like people talking about the character, like suddenly they're talking about like the characters and you're like, oh, you know, these characters didn't exist and now people are talking about them like they're people. Yeah. And that's incredible and super surreal, but really like so wonderful and fun.
Well, there's gonna be some people that are gonna like you're gonna see, like I wanted to focus more on like the psychological thriller, like the whodunit, the mystery component of it. You're gonna have some people that are gonna be interested in the social media component, even though we kind of talked about the fact that it's just there.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
Which is amazing. I also wanted to ask too, very quickly, comedy is something that very interests me. You've worked in comedy as well. You worked on Sex Education. Sex Education is a perfect example of like comedy with a lot of kind of serious undertones and a lot of heart and a lot of, you know, coming of age and everything. Does that happen in that genre where it just has serious undertones? Like, is it just happen or is it planned in your opinion?
In comedy?
Yeah.
I would say it's kind of about the sensibility of the writer and the maker usually. So, you know, so Laurie Nunn, who's the creator and writer of that show, absolutely incredible writer. She you know, just has a mind that thinks like that. She's funny herself. She finds humor in things. She likes to put the comedy first, but she's also like a really, like a lot of comedians, right? A really deep person who like likes to think about like, and kind of emotional and interested in like so what's going on with people.
The personnel behind it definitely.
I think so. I think so. So it's not necessarily that someone goes about being like, I'm gonna do this.
But bending.
Yeah, exactly. But it just seeps out. I think if that's the kind of way that you think, then it just it ends up in the material, in the work. I think. Yeah.
It's so funny you mention that because I feel like I'm a big horror movie fan, and like there's like characters in horror movies that they're not like trying to be funny, but they'll say something and like you laugh. Like it's so weird now, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's cool that I think as well now, like genres are so much more like blending.
It's crazy.
The boundaries are just completely porous, and like something can start as one genre, become another. You know, you get like so much comedy and horror and comedy, you get drama, and I mean it's all over the shop. It's fun.
But I truly don't think, like, I think maybe now because of it's happening so much, you're gonna have like the new generation of writers and creators are gonna be like, I want a genre bend. I want to take this, but I feel like it just happens.
I think so.
I don't feel like anyone wakes up and is like, I'm making a comedy horror drama. Like I don't think that.
No. And I think it's also that like I think this as well with even say with Chloe, that like, you know, in life, right, you're not like, okay, I'm in a comedy, so I'm never going to be sad, or like I'm in a drama, so I'll never make a joke, or whatever. Like life is like that. Like there are moments that, and with Chloe, the only thing, I don't even know what the genre or tone of Chloe is anymore. I just wouldn't even know.
The thriller. I'd say it's more of a thriller than a drama, to be honest with you. But that's just me, right? To each your own and everything.
There's moments, though. I mean, you could call it, there's like scenes with her and her mum where she's just really sad because her mum's got dementia. You know, there's scenes that are just super not that. So it kind of, I always thought about it that it's like we're with Becky and we're in Becky's experience. And so you know, obviously Becky's doing something that's very like high wire, like, you know, balancing act of like all these different lies that she's trying to manage. So obviously in lots of scenes it's really tense and anxious, but then sometimes she's, you know, sometimes it's funny because she's actually enjoying herself, and sometimes it's really sad because her mum is, you know, losing her memory or whatever. So it's just like, it's defined by
it's got some moments. You know, there's some episodes that kind of focus on, okay, what is going on with Becky? Like, what is kind of happening? And I feel like that's tricky with series, Alice, because, you know, you have to flesh out a story, right? And there's a certain amount of episodes, and some have to do their part, right? Like some have to set up certain things. And it becomes more like dramatic, like you said, which is interesting. I guess it depends on the project, but when you wrapped Chloe, I mean, this is a project that you put your heart and soul in. This is a project you were very involved with. You know what I mean? And was the mindset like, I need to relax for a little bit and like,
big time.
Or does this sometimes happen? Like, I have friends that say they worked on movies and they're like, they wrap a movie and they're like, okay, I'm ready for the next one. You know what I mean?
No, that was not me. No, hell no. It was more like, you know, they say with childbirth, people have a baby and they're like, never again. And then 6 months later, they're like, you know.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, there's a lot in the show. Like, I can't even imagine what that's like preparing for kind of getting in there. Like, there's a lot.
Yeah. And I think also, you know, if you've really put everything into something, then you get, when I got to the end, I was also like, the tank's a bit empty, you know, like I need to refill the tank. I need to like read and like experience the world again, and, you know, not just be, you know, just in the Chloe box, just only thinking or talking about Chloe for 2 years straight. Like, I need to take some stuff in. So definitely that's, I mean, I've started writing again, but there's also an element of like, just having more time to, you know, I literally didn't watch or read anything for like a whole year pretty much. So it's like just getting back into that, and I'm excited to, you know, think about the next things, but it took me a beat for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Amazing cast. Huge quickly before we wrap up talk, you know, Aaron, Pippa,
oh my
Brandon,
God,
I mean, crazy. So good.
They're the best. So we had this incredible casting director called Lauren Evans, who is totally brilliant. And we just putting together the cast was one of the most fun and rewarding parts, because so Erin, I knew her work, knew she was super talented, and just got a set, you know, very, very early on we thought of her. And then I met her, she read the scripts, and I met her, and we just had a really great chat where it was very, very clear that she kind of got under Becky's skin. She understood her. It wasn't like coming from the outside and being like, well, she's crazy. You know, it was much more like, I understand this person. Here's why I understand her. This is her psychological profile, and really like connecting with her on some level. And that was so important. And then the cast, the rest of the cast, so great. And honestly, just it's so like unbelievable to have an experience where, you know, we're making a show with them and you just think they're all so right for the parts, and they're all so talented, and it's this ensemble who are just kind of carrying this. I think, you know, honestly, that working with that cast was probably was one of the best parts of making the show for sure. And they're all so talented, and I hope to work with them all again if they'll have me.
And the show is so good, and people are going to see it on the 24th on Prime Video. Alice, it's so great chatting with you. Thanks so much for coming on.
It was so great. Thank you. I loved it.
June 24th on Prime Video, right? They can check it out, Chloe.
That's it. Yeah. June 24th, Amazon.
Yeah. Is there any Twitter or Instagram or social media people can keep up to date with you on, or?
No, hilariously, in an ironic twist, I am on no social media.
Well,
I'm not, because you know what? I just got really depressed, and then I was like, you know what? I'm going to take it off, and I actually feel happier with my life, so that's why. I think Chloe has one. It's at Watching Chloe.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they do. Yeah. And awesome. Well, this has been Pop Turner, youtube.com/Pop Turner. Previous episodes. Chloe's premiering on Prime Video June 24th. Until next time, this is Alice Seabright and PD Beats signing off.
Thank you for tuning in to Popternative. Make sure to check out our past episodes of Popternative on YouTube. Be sure to like Popternative on Facebook and follow us on Twitter.
This has been an Autograph Communications production.